Hi there, this is Sarah Ayler here again for your next Softflex Company video. Today I am going to be loosely knotting some beading wire to make a bracelet. And I am using the Softflex 0.019 medium diameter. I have cut 40 inches of the wire from the spool, and then I have added 30 inches of Toho seed beads. I'm using the matte nickel color. And in the Softflex, I went ahead and did the satin silver because it matched this matte nickel color so well. If you're doing a different color of seed bead, I would suggest matching your wire color to it, because the wire does become exposed in a few areas as it's loosely knotted. I have 30 inches of beaded wire. I have loosely attached a bead stopper on the end of each side. You want it to be loose because as you're knotting it, it's going to tighten the wire, and so it'll actually work its way down here to the bead stopper more than likely eventually, and you'll see what I mean as we get going. I did add a button in the middle. That's going to be my closure. I don't know that this design actually needs an official closure because it does have some stretch to it, but I'll leave that up to you if you want to add the closure or not. So to get started, I'm going to find the very middle of this design. I want my button in the middle, and I have a piece of 20 gauge wire here. It doesn't matter what color. This is just sort of a tool in that I'm going to fold this wire in half. I'm going to string it through my button shank. If you are using a button, you want to use one that has the shank in the middle of the back of the button, not a 4-hole button for this particular design. So I've strung my wire through, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that wire and I am going to attach it to my macrame board. And then if you want, what you can do is actually just fold this down, and that'll make sure that that button attaches up here at the top, and it'll make everything a little bit easier as we get moving here. So I'm going to move a couple things out of my way here to make life just a little bit easier, and we'll bring them back when we need them. Okay, so I've got my button in the very middle. And I just want to make sure I've got a wire on the left and a wire on the right. Trying to make sure my seed beads are in the middle here. Need to tug through a little bit more. Okay, that's looking a little bit better. I still need a few more to come through. Sorry if this is off camera. I'm trying to just make sure that button's right dead center of the two wires. And that is harder than it looks, apparently. Okay, so I've got a wire on the left and a wire on the right. I am going to take the wire on the left. It's going to go over the top of the one on the right, and then it's going to actually slide underneath. And then I'm just going to make a loose knot up here at the button. Likewise, I'm going to take the wire on the right up over the left wire and underneath, and I'll make a loose knot on this side. And you don't have to have these knots be perfect shape. You do want your seed beads to push up so that they are beaded. But you do want them to be about the size that you're going to have them be eventually. Push up on my seed beads, push up on my seed beads. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm taking the wire on the left, up over the wire on the right, and underneath. And I'm just going to continue that pattern down the whole bracelet at this point. Always pushing my seed beads up. Maybe I will tighten up the bead stoppers just a little bit, just to keep those seed beads a little tighter, but I'm going to have to move them down as I go. Okay, so right over left. And I'm using the medium soft flex because it is the most versatile of our diameters. It's the one I use the most often. It'll fit a really small hole, even smaller than a size 11 seed bead. I think it'll actually even go up to a size 15 seed bead. But it can handle things that are a little bit more abrasive as well. So crystal, glass, mineral, metal. It's a really great overall diameter to use in your designs. If you're just getting started, I highly suggest starting with the medium 019. Okay. And up and over. And you'll see it's starting to make its pattern. What's really cool about this design is that it has some give. So you'll see when I pull on it, it has a little bit of a flexibility to it. Soft flex is so nice because it is so kink resistant. So when you do a design like this, you don't have to worry about that wire kinking and then not wanting to go back to its normal position. It's one of the great attributes of soft flex. This is a stainless steel beading wire, believe it or not. It has 49 strands of stainless steel in the center, braided in a proprietary braid, and then it is coated in a satin silver color nylon, or whatever color you happen to be using. Just really strong, can be knotted like into an actual physical knot and not lose any strength where it's knotted. But it can also be used in these wonderful ways like loosely knotting, kumihimo. I've used it on a loom. Just a lot of different possibilities with this particular material. Okay, I feel pretty good about that, and you can see as I kind of pull, these loops will sort of all fix themselves. Like I said, you can use different colors of seed beads. You can even do multiple colors on a single strand, or you can do multiple strands of seed beads. So you could do 3 strands and knot them in this way. I've also made this with just soft flex beading wire itself with a bunch of different colors. You can find that as a free project idea on our website, www.softflexcompany.com. So there just is a lot of different options for making this design your own, and I really encourage you to do that. Anytime you watch one of our videos or see a free project idea, you know, change up the color or change the type of bead that's being used and see what happens. And see, you know, if you make it your own, you can use that creativity that you have to make it special. So I'm going to take both wires, and I just removed the bead stoppers and set them to the side. I'm going to take both wires and I'm going to string a 2x2 crimp tube. It's a soft flex crimp tube, so it's double the wall thickness of most. It's very seamless and strong. And I think at this point I can go ahead and take this guy off of the macrame board. So just to be careful, I'll go ahead and slip my bead stopper back on the bottom. I'm going to flip it over, and then you can just undo that wire at the top. Set your macrame board aside, and then we can just pull this wire out. Wasn't that such a helpful way to attach the design to the macrame board so you could work on it? You can do that with multiple different designs. Just attach your clasp, you know, to the top of the macrame board using a little piece of wire, and then you can bead away and get a good view of what you're doing. Okay, so we've got the length, and now what we're going to do is just make a round circle that will fit just over the size of this button so that we can finish off the design. So I'm going to go ahead and clip this bead stopper on just one of the wires. I'm going to use the longer one. They should have been probably even since I was in the middle, but one did end up longer, so I'm going to take advantage of that and use it as my, my longer piece. And I just need to string a few seed beads. It's really going to be dependent on the size of your button, so I'm not going to really give you a number of seed beads here, and I'm going to have to play around with it to make sure I get the right amount myself anyway. You want the loop to fit nicely over the button, so you want it to be, you know, loose enough that it can fit over the top of the button, but tight enough that once it's around the button, it's not going to come undone. So there's kind of a fine line there of sizing. I'm just going to randomly string a bunch of seed beads on here, and then we will add or remove as needed. And let's see, I wish I remember where I got this button. I had picked it up at a bead store. It may have been Design and Adorn in Tucson, but I don't remember for sure. I go into so many bead stores, and it's always kind of hard to keep track of what's what. Looks like I'm going to need just a few more seed beads. You can see I oftentimes will just test things out to see how they fit. I'm going to go ahead and push this through. Now I'm using a 2x2 crimp tube. I've already gone through it twice with my 019 Soft Flex. You can actually get the 019 through a third time. It is a tight fit, and part of the reason why I have such a big long wire length on the ends here is because it does require a little bit of fiddling to get that 019 through, and if you cut your wire too short, it will be difficult to push it through. And I know this because I just tried it earlier today and my wire was too short, so I had to start over again. Okay, so let's make sure this fits. If it doesn't, we'll add a few more beads. Yeah, it's a really tight fit, so I'm actually going to add just like 2 more beads just to be certain that it fits over it nicely. And the second wire, I'm just going to let it hang out. It's going to crimp, and then I'm going to trim it off once I've crimped this bead in place, and that'll hold the wire there, but it doesn't need to pass back through that crimp tube again. Okay, we always test to make sure that's perfect now. That'll fit over the top so nicely. Okay, so to finish this off, I am just going to crimp, and I'm going to use the magical crimpers today. So if you're not familiar with these pliers, they are absolutely magical. They take a crimp tube and turn it into a round bead while crimping the wires in place. So they have 2 little divots on either side that are very similar, creating a dome inside the pliers. This crimp tube fits inside that dome just perfectly. And when I feel like it's in the right place, I can compress. What that does is it pinches down the 4 corners of the crimp tube so that it almost looks like a little ravioli or a little square. I'm going to turn that square on its side in that same dome inside the crimping pliers. It's the only place you can put them on these crimping pliers. And I'm going to compress again. I like to go around a few times, just gently turning and compressing. And once I have that all tightened down, I shouldn't have any slippage. The ends of the crimp tube are actually cinching into the nylon coating of the beading wire, and that's what holds it into place. Now all I have to do is take the flush side of my cutter. I'm going to slide in as close to that crimp tube as I can and snip the wires on both sides. And once I've done that, I have a really fun, really easy to put on bracelet. And you can see you can wear the button on top, or you can always wear it on the bottom too, and that'll show that really cool pattern of knotting the beading wire. So I hope that you enjoyed this video tutorial on how to make this design. Again, you don't necessarily need to have a clasp. You can just crimp it to the ends because it does have this nice stretch to it, so it should stretch over your hand if you make it big enough. My wrist is 6 inches, so I did make it for a 6-inch wrist. You may want to add some wire or remove some wire depending on the size of your wrist, or some beads as well. And if you have any questions or you want to learn more about our products, we would love for you to stop by our website, which is softflexcompany.com.